Welcome to a new Daily Top Askreddit video. Today's topic. What's an injury you sustained, and lied about how it actually happened, because it was too embarrassing? I was shit-faced and fell in the parking lot of my friend's apartment and busted my face wide open at her birthday party. The birthday party just so happened to be the night before a second date with this really cute girl I met on Tinder. Went on the date and told the girl that a dog at work had knocked me over and I fell on my face. I work with dogs and me being put on my ass by a Great Dane or some other huge pup isn't unusual. And she understood. While on the date some guys came up to me and rudely asked me WTF happened to my face. My Tinder date grabbed my hand and made up some story about how I got in a fight defending her honor and a bar or some nonsense. I could hardly keep a straight face while she was telling the story, but she sold the shit out of it. It wasn't until a few days later I told her the real story of how I got hurt. Tinder date and I are getting married soon. What a wholesome story. Also imagine if that didn't happen. Like, you know, his face was fine the whole time, maybe that interaction wouldn't have ever happened. And maybe that's what made them realize they were perfect for each other. I was once buttering toast with my face really close to it. I like my butter to be spread precisely. Then I sneezed and slammed my head on the counter, effectively knocking myself out, and had to go to the ER to be treated for a concussion. I'm sorry, but this is amazing. I'm almost crying with laughter. In 3rd grade I was holding a pencil in my fist, point up. I sneezed and face planted into it. I'm 24 now and every once in a while someone tells me that I have blue ink on my forehead. I then have to tell them that it's actually a scar from stabbing myself in the face mid-sneeze. I can sympathize. I once punched a bowling ball because I was frustrated. It turns out bowling balls are pretty hard. Broke my hand, it was swollen and bloody. Told my boss at work I slammed my hand in a door. It's still broken. This was like 6 months ago. 6 months. Did all your fingers break? If you give him a firm handshake it sounds like you're squeezing a plastic water bottle. Yeah, they are. A friend of mine's girlfriend broke up with him and he came over right after. He was frustrated and upset and hit his head against my bowling ball a few times. Gave himself a concussion. Why on earth would she break up with such a stable, healthy person? Power move. That'll show her. I got surgery a few years ago on my knees as I had dislodged some loose cartilage in the joint and also torn a bit of my meniscus. At the time I was playing a ton of ultimate frisbee, so I just told people it was that. It actually happened when I was getting up from a chair. Ha ha ha. I dislocated my kneecap playing ultimate frisbee and was embarrassed, so I told people I was sparring mo. Chair, ultimate frisbee, mo. Edit, updated hierarchy. Beanbag, chair, mini golf, frisbee golf, ultimate frisbee, mo, lifting whale, Fallujah, dragons. I was removing facial hair using a remover cream. I ended up leaving it on for too long, which caused burns. I told people I dropped hot noodles on my face. Then you have to explain how you did that. TBF, microwaved instant noodles can be deceptively stiff. I've burned my chin and lips a few times with mismanaged noodle whips. I have a scar that crossed my left eyebrow. It looks badass and I made it during a fight against a man with a knife. At least that is what I tell everybody, because saying my PS2 fell on my face cause I tried to lift it while not paying attention may be too stupid. Dude, I have a scar just like that. I got mine when a tree branch fell on me when I was helping my dad trim some oak trees in our yard, but actually I ran into the corner of a wall during a pillow fight. I got mine when I was little pretending to drive a docked speedboat. I turned the wheel so hard to the left that I fell out of the seat and hit my head on the fire extinguisher. I once fell out of bed and cracked my head open on a metal frame. Blood everywhere, a visit, stitches, etc. I was about 6 years old. I still have the scar decades later. My mother literally changed our beds even though we really couldn't afford it to safer ones. The truth is, I didn't want to go to bed, so I flung myself out of bed to pretend to be hurt and maybe get to stay up for a short while longer. I mean, you got to stay up. I'd see this as absolute win. My sister probably has the same scar, but luckily she has a ton of hair. As the older sister, it was my job to convince her to do dumb things, and she listened when I told her to jump on the bed. But then she fell out and split her head on the metal bed frame. My dad rushed us to the hospital, and my mom came home from work to find us missing, blood everywhere, and no note or anything. Before cell phones. My dad and I were both in trouble after that. And that's why you always leave a note. Oh, your poor mum. I have a 1.5 stab wound scar on my left bicep. When I was younger and attractive girls asked me how it happened, I would tell them it happened during a fight where someone pulled a knife on me. Actually, I worked in a butcher shop of a market when I was in my late teens. Part of my job was to collect all the carving knives from the prep area, put into a large plastic bin, and carry them behind the deli case to the kitchen to wash. One time coming back out of the kitchen, I failed to notice that someone had opened the trapdoor to the basement, in my direct path. While I was in the kitchen, the plastic bin obscured my view. I took one fateful step, opposite to the stairs side, and tumbled into the basement, with the contents of the bin raining down around me. Somehow I escaped with only a twisted ankle and the aforementioned stab wound in my arm for which I had to go to the ER for stitches. I'll always remember being dazed, sitting at the bottom of the stairs looking up and seeing a meat cleaver embedded in one of the steps. You got extremely lucky, my friend. In more ways than one. Scars can be sexy, and it sounds like he got one such scar. My younger brother had a pretty big birthmark on his wrist. When he was maybe 10, the doctors told my parents it would be good to remove it because it might have a higher chance of developing skin cancer. So they removed it and he had to go to school with a large bandage for a few days. He was sort of embarrassed about it, so I jokingly told him if anyone asks to tell them he was in a knife fight. Of course, the first person to ask was his teacher and he repeated that verbatim. My mom said there were a couple questions the teacher had when she went to pick my brother up after school that afternoon. I have multiple scars on my arms, and back and legs and scalp, but they're less visible, due to possible melanomas being removed. Where's Askreddit, kids? I always say knife fight when people ask me about them because I think it's funny when they try to figure out how a wildly non-threatening middle-aged mom collected multiple knife fight scars. Dude, that's not on you to notice the floor is open. That's a serious safety violation on the restaurant's part. Yeah, there definitely should be a railing /rope /large hazard cone / something to warn people. Something that you can remove while it is closed. I was having some trouble with my heart a few months ago that caused dizziness and occasional fainting. Passed out while in the shower and sprained my wrist. Told my co-workers it was a workout injury because I passed out in the shower was a visual I didn't want to give everyone. Edit, whoosh, this blew up. I can't respond to all of these comments individually, so here are a few answers for you. I don't know enough about the Apple Watch to know if it would have helped me. But my symptoms are totally in control because of the meds I'm on, so I don't plan on getting one. Propanol is the medication I'm on. It's a beta blocker. A lot of you are asking if my heart issue was resolved and what my diagnosis was. After several months of symptoms, I finally was diagnosed thanks to a Holter monitor my cardiologist had me wear. I wore it for 2 weeks. The monitor caught and recorded a ton of irregular heartbeats in both the upper and lower chambers in my heart that were happening daily. My heart was skipping beats, then doing extra little half beats, for lack of a proper medical term, to try to compensate. I was also having rapid heartbeats, which I already knew from checking my pulse. My doctor put me on a medication to resolve the irregular beats, and my symptoms have all gone away. Unless I forget to take my meds, in which case I feel my heart having irregular beats at times. Several people are asking about my symptoms because they are having similar symptoms. Many different heart problems can cause similar symptoms, so please don't diagnose yourself based on my story. If you're having unusual symptoms that seem like they are stemming from your heart, I urge you to see a good cardiologist as soon as you can. You won't be able to diagnose yourself from internet research, and you need medical help to prevent any long-term damage. If your doctor tells you you're fine because you don't meet the usual criteria for heart issues, i.e., smoker, overweight, family history, etc., get another doctor and advocate for yourself. Sprained my wrist in the shower isn't the visual you want to give them, either. It really is the best place for hammer curls though. Got drunk. Fell on my face on pavement. Said the huge gash on my forehead down to my cheek was from rugby. To be fair, it was during a rugby social. Fucky figure it out, that's what I says. His spare parts bud. Fully took off my nail while playing football, I said. Was playing sport. Just an intense game of sword fighting on Wii Sport Resort and slammed my hand really hard on a table. You should just say you lost it during a sword fight. When I was younger we dismantled one of those plastic football goals, and reassembled it into a giant golf club. I was then swiftly hit in the face, causing my cheek to rip open. I had to tell my dad that someone kicked the football too hard into my face because I didn't want to admit that I was beaten by a homemade plastic rod. Edit. Picture of the scar for those asking https://imga.com/a/JTEYG4E. Did he believe it? He did. I don't think there was much question about it while I was bleeding, and afterwards I don't think the reason was too important.